Hey guys, it is Arika Misha. Thank you guys so much for clicking on today's video. Just something that God had laid on my heart to talk about today, and I wanted to come and talk about it today. In the title of today's video, But I Love Him. And God wanted me to come and talk today that it may help someone, God wanted me to come and talk today about, sharing my experience of, how should I say, being in love with the wrong person, God wanted me to come and share today. I knew God was going to want me to come and talk about this one day. And I was just waiting on God to tell me it's time to talk about it. But, I think we all have been in love at some point with the wrong person. Maybe we all haven't, if we're being honest, liking someone, being in love with someone that's not who God has for you. Yeah, that one. God wanted me to come and talk about it today, being in love with the wrong person or being in love with someone who God doesn't want you to be in love with, especially, when it's not ordained by God, And I'm just talking, from my experience, me as a woman of God living for Christ. I've experienced that, and God wanted me to come and talk about it today. Being in love with someone who God does not want me to be in love with. And you know what? God wanted me to come and talk about it, so I'm doing it. God had to deliver me from that individual, because a lot of times we can't get ourselves out of it. We're fighting that flesh and that spirit, And, God tells you, God lets you know, no, it's not them. But we want it to be. God be like, no. We be like, yeah, God. And God be like, no. And we be like, yeah, God. And we think that our yes is gonna convince God to say yes when it's no. And God's like, it's no. It's always been no. It's still a no. And it's gonna always be a no for that person. And, I allow God to spiritually, step in and help me, and to deliver me from that individual, and it took nobody but God to do it, because as far as my flesh would have stayed in the situation. But it was my spirit, the strength of my spirit and my relationship with God that gave me the strength to move on and be delivered from that person, And like I said, a lot of times it's hard for us to do it ourselves. We need the help of Christ. So God wanted me to come and share that today. Being in love with the wrong person and not being able to get yourself out of it. We have to allow God to step in and deliver us from that individual. Allow God to come in and just take them out of our spirit. Just deliver us from them. And that's what God did for me. So if that's something you're struggling with, you pray and ask God and help and give you strength. Like they say, deliver us from evil. But so God wanted me to come and talk about today and just share that, God is amazing. God can do the impossible. What you think you can't get out of and what you think you got to stay in, God can help you get out of any situation that's not of Him and that He hasn't ordained. All right, guys, this is Arika Misha. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to go in the description box, click on the link to my second channel. God bless. Bye.